So English Poetry, Semester 4, Block 3. So here we are concentrating on, are you able to see?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if you have any doubts, please let me clarify by the end of the session. I'll give you the time to clarify your doubts. So block 3 is concentrating on 20th century poets, especially 3 poets are selected here, prescribed for our syllabus: W.B. Yeats, T.S. Eliot, and Ted Hughes. All of them are having their own characteristics, means styles of writing, their own uniqueness in their writing. Then what is this 20th century poetry meant for? What does it mean and what it concentrates on? So this 20th century witnessed rapid changes both in societal and literary frontiers. Frontier is nothing but the expansion. So here 20th century witnessed so many changes, rapid growth in all the aspects, like inventions, like modern kind of way of life, even culture. When people moved from place to place, they adopted the other cultures of that particular place. So in that way, there was a rapid growth and change in the period of 20th century. And this is the period of scientific advancement. Here we see the books like Origin of Species, the scientific advancements, so many innovations and inventions take place at this moment. And as a result of that advancement, there is a chance of modernization. Then the characteristics of 20th century poetry are realism. First is realism. So this realism is nothing but showing something how it is and what it is. So realism in modern poetry, we call the 20th century poetry as modern poetry as a reaction against pseudo-romanticism. Pseudo-romanticism means romanticism concentrated on various kind of imaginative and emotional expressions, elated kind of moods, whereas this modern period started showing everything as it is, reality. So modern poet sees life as it was. Means it is a time when he was living. So in that way, he concentrated on what he has seen there. And he witnessed all the weight. Weight means the pressure as well as ugliness around him. And he tried to show the painful life, the tears which are hidden inside the eyes, etc. Then love. Love was one of the most important subject matters of 20th century poets. So of course, we do not have this subject or this theme in our prescribed syllabus. Then pessimism. Pessimism is nothing but hopelessness and disillusionment. All the illusions had been gone. So the modern poet had realized the pettiness of human life and the tragedy and the suffering of the poor. So in that way, T.S. Eliot, like poets, concentrated on pessimism and disillusionment in modern poetry. Then nature. Nature attracted the modern poet, no less than the poets of earlier ages. But for the modern poet, nature is not a mystic. He doesn't find any spiritual meaning in nature. That means opposite to the romantic feeling. So he feels jolly at the sight of nature's loveliness, the beauty which is there inside the nature. And he gives a clear picture of birds, the scenes and sights, the landscapes, the countryside in his poetry. Of course, we even do not have this kind of category. And romantic elements. So romantic elements here is the spirit of romance continues to rule the minds of the poets like W.B. Yeats. And the works of some of the poets have the fact that the spirit of romance is as old as the life itself. Means we can't avoid that romantic element from the field of art. These are some of the characteristic features of 20th century poetry. Then we concentrate on W.B. Yeats. So he is one of the prominent authors of 20th century, and he was an Irish, belongs to Ireland, and he is not only a poet, playwright, as well as a politician. He had a unique style of writing, and he is considered as one of the greatest poets of 20th century literature. And his poetry is known for its depth and complexity. That means internally, there is a lot to study. So more than the lines which appear on paper or from his text, there is a lot to see. So in that way, W.B. Yeats introduced so much of depth and complexity in his work. And his works are unique and very distinct in their style. So his work is so peculiar, so unique, so different from other authors of the period. And his style is very distinct in nature, very unique in nature, very special kind. And some of his famous works are The Second Coming, Sailing to Byzantium, Easter 1916. These are considered as the most popular poems by W.B. Yeats. Then we have, among these three, we have Second Coming as our syllabus. Just follow the book there, the material which is given to you. So this poem is one of the best known poems of W.B. Yeats, very popular. And it is it was written based on biblical references. The Second Coming, the phrase itself is meant for Christianity. So all these things are mentioned in the book of Genesis, that means Bible. That the birth of Jesus Christ, how it is conveyed to the mankind. Similarly, after 2000 years, once again, the God is going to visit his land, his kingdom, that is earth. So Second Coming title is from that biblical reference. And it is all about, the poem is all about the changing nature of the world, how the world has been in a change, how it is losing its connections with the past. So the poet says here, the world is constantly altered, means going away from the past or the connections through violence and disorder. Chaos means disorder. So this world kept on changing itself by combining violence and disorder into that change. And the poet compares the world with the widening gyre. Gyre is here nothing but a whirlpool-like. So the world is expanding itself in a circular motion. And the poet says that this changing world is made up of interlocking circles. So interlocking circles, there is a picture in the book, page number 71. So the first, the upper pyramid or triangle shows that the control of the creator over his creation. And the bottom one talks about, or it represents, the expansion of the world, the widening gyre of the world. And he argues, the poet argues that due to the change which the world accepted, humanity has become disillusioned. And there is no place for humanity, that nobody is considering that as a characteristic of human beings. And the humanity, the world has loosened away from its center, and through which new era of freedom has come. So with that new era of freedom, people are losing connections. People are forgetting about their root, their actual condition. They are revolving around the mechanical work as well as materialistic pursuit. And when we concentrate on the text of the poem here, it is divided into two parts. In part one, the speaker starts saying that the falcon is here a human being or a civilization, is turning again and again and in a widening spiral, means it is revolving and widening its own existence, and it cannot hear the call of the owner. That means falconer. So falconer is none other than the God, the one who controls all his creation. So, but the falcon or the world or the human being or the civilization is unable to hear due to that expansion, due to that widened kind of area. He is unable to, or it is unable to be in the control of its owner or its falconer or its creator. So things break and fall. Things fall apart when the owner or falconer loses his control over the world, then things fall apart. Then the center cannot hold its authority. So it is loosened upon the world. The authority of the falconer or the center has loosened. And there is a lot of disturbance. The world is filled with tides of darkened blood. So here blood is floating just like water. And the rituals of innocence, the attitude, the ceremony of innocence is drowned. That means there is no importance for innocence. The best lack all conviction. The best people, the capable one, lost their energy and interest or enthusiasm to stand, whereas the worst are having full of passionate intensity. That means the worst people are ruling the world. So in that way, the world lost its originality. So it is not at all in control. So there, by the end of the first part, the speaker conveys a kind of prophecy, a kind of expectation that something is going to happen. Something in future, something is going to come or prevail to control this particular disturbance or disorder. Then in the second part of the poem, surely it is the second coming. It is at hand. Means a kind of confirmation the speaker is giving here where the falconer lost his control over the falcon, over the world. So there, the second coming is going to happen. So it is generally the first coming is considered as the birth of Jesus Christ. And after a while, 2,000 years, so there is one more visit by the God. So in that way, we expect according to biblical reference. So this second coming is hardly are those words out when a vast image out of Spiritus Mundi. So this Spiritus Mundi is nothing but the spirit of all mankind. So this is not a general imaginative kind of perspective, just like the arrival of God once again to the world after 200 years in the form of second coming. But here the vision is not at all pleasant. So the vision, the imagination, or the expectation of the speaker here, which troubles the sight of the poet here. So the vision the poet sees, this poet is none other than the speaker, or the speaker is none other than the poet here. So the poet sees that a shape, very peculiar shape of a lion body and the head of a man. So this shape has a gaze which is as blank, as pitiless as gaze of the sun. So the second coming would be so terrible, so terrific. It is not just like the previous birth of Jesus Christ. So in that way, he is giving a kind of assurance to the world where something is going to happen in future and something is going to take place, but not in a peaceful manner, but not in a general casual manner. Something drastic change is going to take place in this world. So in that way, he ends the poem by giving a kind of prophecy that second coming is sure, where that second coming is not in a peaceful manner. So the civilization is for sterner times, and it needs to be in control and in the hands of the new authority, means the new owner who is going to come. He is going to take over the wake of the second coming. So in that way, the world is going to be in control of the new owner. So there everything will be settled down. So in that way, he ends the poem by giving a caution to the world that something which happened is not for good. It is not for peace. Then as a result of that center which lost its control over the world, so the world is falling apart. That leads humanity to more destructive situations. So that is the reason why there is a lot of disturbance in the world. So all these things he mentions. And the poet emphasizes that the second coming is going to happen. And the themes of the poem are, these are known or acceptable themes. Christianity. Based on biblical reference, he directly touched the religion there. So according to their belief, God is going to visit this world on the day of judgment and is going to settle down everything. And then pessimism. The world is in a pessimistic tone, a kind of hopelessness that is clearly visible in the poem. And then prophecy, expectation, civilization as a theme, violence as a theme, and meaninglessness to the life is a theme of the poem. Then T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot is one of the most influential figure of 20th century, most prominent poet, playwright, as well as critic. So he has presented his revolutionary views on poetic process, how to develop a poem and how to continue it, and then poetic drama, and as well as criticism, how to study a work of art, principles of criticism. Then he coined new concepts like objective correlative, dissociation of sensibility, then unification of sensibility, impersonality, and tradition. These are the concepts invented or coined by T.S. Eliot. Then some of his well-known works are The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, then The Wasteland. With that poem, he became world famous. Then we have The Journey of the Magi. This poem is in the form of a dramatic monologue. So the poem refers to the journey of three wise men of the East, and they are trying to reach a particular destination that is nothing but Bethlehem, according to the biblical reference once again. So during that journey, they face a number of hardships and pain. They suffer a lot while traveling. And the journey stands for spiritual quest and the birth into a new faith. So spiritual quest, they are searching for spirituality, and the birth into new faith, they are leading towards a new faith. And this poem is also the moment of revelation, expectation. A kind of change is going to take place in that way. And it is of initiation and a moment of both, of birth and death. So birth into a new order or new faith, or the death of the older one. And the journey is the experience of enlightenment of every man. So after doing something, definitely we expect something. So this journey is the experience of enlightenment. After reading the poem, even we too have such kind of enlightenment in us. So the poem starts with giving us a kind of explanation about the journey, how difficult it was, how terrible it was. So here the three wise men are going through a dull, difficult, unpleasant, and cold journey it is. So they are going on the way to reach a place, but the journey was not at all comfortable. And they feel that it was the worst time of the year for undertaking that long journey because of the season. So the roads were uneven and full of holes, and the weather was too much cold, means it was the time of winter. And it was the worst part of the winter season. So the camels on which they are traveling, so the camels were feeling miserable to walk on the way. So their feet were full of pain and they were reluctant to go ahead. So they lay down, those camels lay down on the ground that is filled with snow. And sometimes we feel sorry for, we means here the three wise men, they felt sorry for having undertaken this adventure, and they could not, they felt that they could not have undertaken such an unpleasant journey. And another source of trouble was the camel drivers who were grumbling on account of hardships of the journey. So they felt like running away because they wanted the women and wine. So they are feeling nostalgic to go back to their families. And another difficulty was the absence of warm fire at nights, the scarcity of suitable places to take rest and feel relaxed. And moreover, the city is situated on the way, but not at all cordial, not at all welcoming. So the people were so unfriendly. The villages they had to pass through were dirty, and the people charged high prices for the food and drink. And in fact, they had to face a very bad time. So when they heard their destination, they decided to travel all night. So people slept by turns and for short periods. So then they heard voices telling us that our journey was a great stupidity on their part. Of course, by the end of this, they reached their destination early morning. They reached a valley with a mild climate, very different from the previous climate. It was so wet below the snow line, and there was a lot of vegetation, and there was running stream and water. Then the sound of the water as well as the stream, which disturbed the stillness of the night, but still it was soothing like. Then there were 3 trees in a distance and an old white horse. Here the wise men are describing the location there. And 3 trees, there were three trees in the distance, and an old white horse galloped in the meadows. It was feeding on the meadows. And then they came to the tavern, and the door which was covered with vine leaves, and they saw 6 hands at an open door gambling for pieces of silver. So in that way, they saw the feet of drunken men kicking the empty wineskins, but they had no information about their destination. And they continued and arrived in the evening. They reached to a place where Jesus was born, and thus ended their journey happily. Then the speaker is remembering how it had happened. So the incident took place a long time ago, but still he remembered and he would like to do it again. But now he desired to note down the most essential points of the journey. So this journey was not at all equal to the previous one. So he wanted to undertake this journey for birth and death. That means for salvation and transformation. And the passengers or the Maggie knew that there was a birth, and they had seen birth and death before, but he never thought they were different. But this birth, that means rebirth in Christianity, was a painful and heartbreaking experience for us. Means the resurrection he's talking about. Because this rebirth destroyed the old values and ideals. And it was like our own death. Means by sacrificing the values, he feels that he is dead. And due to that, they lost their peace of mind. So in that condition, their own people sticking to their old ways and faiths seemed strangers to us, them. That means the people who stuck themselves with the religion were like strangers to the ones who went away from the religion. So they were like, they seemed like foreigners worshipping their own God. So the speaker feels that he should have another death. So after that death, he is going to get rid of all his mental tension, and that leads him to purify himself and come back to the blessings of the Jesus Christ. So in that way, the poem talks about the hazards of the journey and the result of the journey, where does it end, and the second death, how he could feel after reaching the destination, etc. So altogether, the poem conveys a kind of enlightenment in every man after facing something, after experiencing something. Then we have Ted Hughes. He is called as animal poet. He is considered as, because of his interest towards animals as his subjects, he almost in all the works, he had taken animals as his medium to convey something. So Ted Hughes is one of the greatest English poets of 20th century, as well as he was a translator, editor, and children's book writer. And he used pseudonyms for his early publications, and these are his pseudonyms, false names, while writing. And his important works are The Hawk in the Rain and Lupercal. Then the Thought Fox is the text prescribed for us, our syllabus. It is divided into 6 stanzas. So it appeared in his first collection of poetry, that is The Hawk in the Rain. So the poem is all about how inspiration comes to him. Him means here the poet. The poet himself is the speaker in the poem. So the setting of the poem is a room, and the time is midnight. So the speaker or the poet sits alone in the dark place because it is midnight, and he has been in his imagination. So he feels the presence of something else because he sits alone in the room, but still he feels the presence of something else inside the room. So the poem starts with a personal description, like I imagine. I means here the speaker or the poet. He is in his imagination in that midnight moment's forest. So he is imagining the place or the condition of a forest at midnight time. And something else is alive. So there, in that darkness, in that loneliness, in that midnight moment, there is something else which is alive. And he feels that besides the clock's loneliness and this blank page where my fingers move. So through that, we can understand, we can perceive that the poet or the speaker sits alone inside the room and he wants to write something. And he is with an empty paper, blank paper. So when he imagines something, something else is alive inside or in the forest. So there, his fingers move on the blank paper. So he feels that something or somebody is helping him to run his fingers. And there we come to know that he is rather on his chair and writing a poem. Then the forest here symbolizes his mind, in which something, that is a thought, an idea comes, through which he is able to fill the paper. Though he is sitting alone, just passing his time, but still he has a thought in his mind as a companion. So with that companion, with the help of that company, he is able to fill the paper. Then, through the window, he sees, but there are no stars. Star represents here hope. But in his life, there is no hope at that moment. So the poet tries to see something from, he wants to get something from the outside, but there are no stars. Then the stanza ends with a suspense, though deeper within darkness is entering the loneliness. So he wants to live with his own loneliness and trying to kill that loneliness by taking the help from the companion. So in that way, he wants to convey that it is nothing but, the companion is nothing but none other than the thought or an innovative idea which helps him to get out of that loneliness. And the third stanza, that something which he wanted to see or which he wanted to witness is not visible. It is not visible. It is a fox. He feels that it is because he is imagining a forest like, so he feels it is a fox with cold, delicately as dark snow. Means the fox looks like cold and looks like dark snow. So its nose touches a twig leaf. So he is imagining the movement, body movement of a fox inside the forest. So two eyes serve a movement that is now and again, now and now and now. That means the continuity of the thought there, the continuous movement of the fox there, he is imagining. The fox is coming near to him, and right now its nose is visible, but later, after a while, it is going to be seen by the poet completely. That means the thought which had taken birth in his mind is going to become clear, and he is able to project everything on the paper. And the fourth stanza, the fox sets neat prints into the snow. The movement, the body movements of the fox are very clear here. The prints of the foot are stamped on the snow there. So the body that is bold to come means the thought is having that boldness to enter into the mind, just like a fox enters into the forest. And the fox sets its footprints, means the letters here, the letters on the paper. And across the clearing in the fifth stanza means the area without forest or snow, and in the deeper sense, that is the paper. Across clearings, a widening, deepening greenness, brilliantly, concentratedly coming about its own business. That means the poet suddenly feels an eye which is getting wider, means the fox, as if it had seen something, as if it had witnessed something just like that. The thought is widening itself, its own existence, and deepening greenness. That means the brilliance, and it is concentrated on its own business. So in that way, the two eyes have now merged into a single wider eye. Then the fox, with its sting, its smell, it makes us feel, suddenly enters the dark hole of the head. Here, the whole of the head is the mind of the poet. And the fox, or the creative thought, suddenly comes into his mind, which was dark enough, empty enough. So without giving him a clue or an idea or a hint, it entered. And all this happened, yet the window is still starless. The clock ticks, nothing has changed, but everything looks normal, but the poet's creative idea is clearly visible on the paper. That means he has written a poem there with the help of the fox. That is nothing but the thought, creative thought. So by the end, he realizes that the fox is nothing but his thought. Then the themes of the poem are the act of writing, inspiration, and nature. Then we have block 4, in which we are going to concentrate on American poetry. So up to block 3, we have concentrated on British poetry. So American poetry is having its own uniqueness, its own identity. So we can't mix up British poetry and American poetry. We can't club both of them. So American poetry is having its own characteristics, its own identity in the field of literature. So here we have 6 authors: H.W. Longfellow, Walt Whitman, Robert Frost, J.M. Langston Hughes, W.H. Auden, Maya Angelou. So we'll see how far we are going to finish these. H.W. Longfellow, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, was an American poet, translated one of the fireside poets from New England. New England is where maximum first immigrants settled in the USA. So it is named as New England. So in which maximum people who went there from 1600 onwards, they settled there. So collectively, the colonies are called as New England. And his work is categorized as lyric poetry. And being a private man, he did not include or add autobiographical information to his poetry. He never felt interested to include autobiographical experiences or impressions in his work. And he often used didacticism in his poetry. Didacticism is nothing but he tries to instruct through his work. He wants to preach something with the help of his work. So here one poem is prescribed, Psalm of Life. So this is one of the inspirational, highly inspirational poem, which requests or which urges This poem urges the readers to attain a positive attitude, means having a hope towards life. And the poet disapproves of the ideas like some people always say that their life is miserable and meaninglessness, etc. So the poet disapproves of such kind of ideas. Life is always fruitful, according to him. So he asks everyone to live the present, live the moment, and have a goal. He requests the readers to set a goal and work hard to achieve that. So then we never feel that misery and meaninglessness of life. So here the poet urges his readers to attain positive attitude towards life instead of regretting the things which happened, because sometimes something happened in our life which cannot be changed. It is not our responsibility or our duty to change, because something had happened, it happened. So he requests the readers dreaming about uncertain future. Instead of brooding over the past and dreaming about uncertain future, just live the moment, live the present. And the poem is divided into 9 stanzas. Each stanza is having 4 lines. First of all, the title, Psalm of Life. Psalm means, according to Christianity, it is a sacred song or a hymn, HYMN, or prayer, generally meant for praising the God. So here, Psalm means, P silent, Psalm means a lesson or an advice in the form of a song, advice towards life. So an inspirational song of life, it means. So at the beginning, the first stanza, the poet disapproves of the idea put in the mournful numbers or sad poems that life is nothing but an empty dream. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream, hollow and meaningless, like a dream. So from him, or for him, the soul of those who always feel lazy or sleepy, those who consider life as a meaningless dream, is dead. The ones and their souls are dead. And such person may not see the reality. That means the pessimist and those who curse the life, they see always the dream-like, but not the reality. But life is mixed with the reality and a dream, expectation for the future. And the second stanza, according to the poet, life is real and passionate, earnest. And graves means the dying, the pessimist belief, is not the goal of life. So one who said that dust from which we have taken birth, so this dust we have to go. That means, of course, we can't stop the death, the approach of death, but still, up to that moment, we need to live our life. So in that way, he wanted to convey that living is an art. So we need to perform it properly. And then Neither enjoyment nor sorrow is one's destined end or way. Always we can't feel that enjoyment and as well as sorrow. So because they are not everlasting one. So these two emotions are temporary. They are part of life. And one should never take them seriously. Enjoyment as well as sorrow. They are part of life. So they come and go. So instead of brooding over that absence of enjoyment or the presence of sorrow, one should make balance between these two. One replaces the other. So in that way, we need to live in the present. And art means here work. In the fourth stanza, so fleeting means running away. So living our life is like an art. Fleeting, time is fleeting, that means evaporating. Time is running away. Time is running fast and the work is too much. So we should not be, feel afraid of that running of time, but we need to think about how smartly we can do the work within the limited time. And the next stanza, the poet considers the world is as vast battlefield. So humans are here, soldiers. They are in temporary camps. And their situation is do or die. We do not have any other option. So in that way, we have to face the life as if we are in a battlefield. We should not be dumb, empty-headed, or driven cattle, domestic animals. Because those domestic animals act as slaves. So we should not be like such slaves. Instead of that, we should be a hero. We should prove ourselves like a hero in the battlefield. And the next stanza, sixth one, the poet says that we should not trust the future. We should not trust the future. We should never think of a better future all the time because we do not know what will happen after a while. Then in the seventh stanza, he talks about the story of great men. They tell us how they led their lives. So it is like an inspiration to all the people. And the poet, in the next stanza, the poet urges us make such kind of history. How the previous generations, how they led their life. So similarly, we have to live our life and create a history. And we must lead to. We must begin our journey towards success. And by the end of the poem, he says, let us be up. Means we must get ready to face the world. Of course, we can't change the fate, but we should not think about the fate. So without thinking of fate, success or failure, we should believe ourselves. In that way, the themes of the poem are optimism, right attitude towards life, and capturing the moment, the day. And Walt Whitman. So he is a well-known American poet and essayist as well as a journalist. And he is considered as the most influential poets of America. He incorporated transcendentalism, a philosophy, and realism in his work. And his works are well known in American literature, especially Leaves of Grass, a volume of poetry he introduced to the world. So that Leaves of Grass has been considered as the Bible of America. Then, O Captain and My Captain is a poem through which it is conveyed how a poet depends on somebody, company. Like here, the captain refers to Abraham Lincoln and ship refers to USA. So the captain was assassinated in the year 1865. Immediately after that incident, he wrote the poem, which is included in Leaves of Grass later. And the poem describes the victory of the Union after the end of Civil War, because Civil War took place to eradicate inequality in the country. So it is divided into three stanzas. In the first stanza, Whitman calls upon the captain. He is addressing to the captain of the ship that the fearful trip is nothing but the dreadful civil war which took place, which had come to an end. And the people have won the victory at last, and which they quested, they felt for. So that is the victory of the Union. Then the poet tells the captain that a port, the house of a ship or the home of a ship is port. So the port is very near, and now he can hear the sound of temple bells and the cries of enthusiastic people who are eagerly waiting for him, waiting for the captain. And the enthusiasm increases as the ship reaches near the port. And then this enthusiasm is replaced by gloom, because the captain is dead now. So his blood is oozing out, and this makes the poet exclaim, "Oh, heart, heart, heart," means the painful moment or the pain he is trying to express. So the captain, who was supposed to be praised by the people for his peerless bravery, is now lifeless and motionless. So he has become dead. Then in the second stanza, Whitman tries to talk to the captain. Still, he knows that he is dead, the captain is dead. He knows that very well. But still, this technique of talking to the dead is called apostrophe. So the poet asks the captain to rise up. As for him, bells are being rung, flags are being hoisted, musical instruments are being rung, flowers are being curled, etc. Because all of the country, all over the country, there was an expectation of the resurrection kind of Abraham Lincoln. The people are eagerly waiting for his arrival, but he is dead now. So it should be noted that the captain is dead now. Hence, these ceremonies are of his funeral, not for his arrival. So the poet goes into reminiscence. He is recollecting how he lived with the captain and the intimacy between. He calls him father because he protected the country as if he is the father of the children of the country. And he laments, the whole nation laments over the loss. And the third stanza, we find the duality of emotions. Whitman expresses his emotion, his interest of conveying their victory, but at the same time, he wanted to enjoy or celebrate the moment, but at the same time, he laments over the death of Abraham Lincoln. So, because the death is a very big loss, huge loss to the nation. The poet says that the captain is dead and his lips are pale. He can neither feel the arms of the poet nor his heart is beating. Because the intimate relationship between the poet and the ex-president, is conveyed here. So this moment, when the ship has arrived to this destination, to the port, the fearful trip it is. The horrors of civil war is over now. but the consequences, the result of it has been there on the country. Still it exists. And then there is a relief among the people as the war has come to an end. But still, the people are unable to rejoice because of the death of the president there. The deck here refers to the cemetery of Lincoln. And the poet moving around this place and laments over the death of Abraham Lincoln. That means the poem ends with both celebration as well as grief, lament. So in that way, main themes of the poem are the death of Abraham Lincoln, the loss, how people feel, and the grief. So this is today's session. And from, we try to finish the remaining one in the next session. If you have any doubts, please let me clarify. You can use your chat box. If you have any doubts, please let me know.
No, ma'am.
By tomorrow, we are going to end the whole syllabus. We try to finish it off.